The flash, not the car, not the status, it's presence, and presence is erotic. I remember a dinner party once in Paris. The table was filled with laughter, cheese, and contradiction. Politics, poetry, parenting, it was all there. But at the end of the table sat a man in his 60s. He listened more than he spoke. When he finally did speak, the room leaned in. He wasn't trying to be impressive. He simply was. That's the first thing, presence over performance. An older man knows that attraction isn't turned through effort, but through embodiment. He doesn't chase validation because he's lived enough to know he is the validation. His attention is rare, and women can sense that they feel chosen, not captured. And then there is emotional intelligence, the second irresistible trait. Women go wild for a man who is in touch with himself. Not to be soft, but to be safe. Not passive, but. Women love emotional safety, deeply attuned. A man who doesn't run from discomfort, but sits with it. Who can ask, what did that make you feel, instead of why are you overreacting? This is not sensitivity as weakness. It's sensitivity as strength, as seduction. Third, boundaries. Yes, boundaries are unbelievably sexy. A man who says no. A man who doesn't abandon himself just to be liked. Who doesn't chase, doesn't cling, doesn't need to be needed. Why? Because women don't want to mother you, they want to meet you eye to eye, soul to soul. A man with boundaries tells the world, I respect myself. And in doing so, he teaches others how to respect him, too. And finally, the one most overlooked, curiosity without control. Older men who truly capture a woman ask questions without trying to engineer the answers. They don't treat her like a puzzle to be solved but a landscape to be explored. They don't correct her. They witness her. They say, tell me instead of that doesn't make sense. In that space women unfold, bloom, expand. So why do women go crazy when older men these things? Because these men are. They aren't chasing youth. They re-embodying depth. They don't demand submission. They inspire surrender. They don't rescue you. They see you. And when a woman feels seen, truly seen, share members who she island. And so to theme listening, this is your invitation to be the kind of man who is not measured by age, but by depth, not by conquest, but by connection. Not by how many hearts you can collect, but by how safely one can open in your presence, because in the end, it's not about making women crazy. It's about making them feel alive. Now go be that man. There is something unmistakably captivating about a man who has stopped performing. You know the type. Not loud, not eager, not trying to win a room. He doesn't need to impress because he is impressed by life itself. His presence speaks louder than any pickup line, any over-rehearsed charm, or any over-polished story. When he enters space, the atmosphere shifts not because of what he does, but because awful highlanded. You see, presence is the energy of someone who has nothing to do with power and calm leadership prove. He doesn't posture, doesn't puff up, doesn't shrink down. He occupies his space like a man who knows he belongs there. And that is magnetic. It's the difference between chasing attention and commanding it. Women are exquisitely sensitive to this difference. They sense it in the first few seconds. The man was trying too hard to be liked creates anxiety because he's already unsure of himself. But the man who is at ease with himself creates ease around him. His calm becomes contagious. His groundedness offers safety, not the dull kind, but the delicious kind. A safety that says you don't have top or form either. This presence I often honed through experience, through years of losing, of failing, of learning that not everything needs to be fixed or said. It is the quiet dignity of a man who no longer chases things that are not aligned with him. He's walked away from what sparkled but didn't satisfy. He said yes to solitude. He's met his own emptiness and sat with it without reaching for distraction. And in doing so, he has cultivated a presence that feels like home. This is why women go crazy for it, because in his presence, she feels herself soften. Her nervous system relaxes. Her defenses lower, not out of manipulation, but out of trust. She doesn't feel like prey. She feels like possibility, and that is rare. A younger man might bring fireworks, but the older man brings firewood, slow-burning, intentional, and enduring. He knows timing. He knows when to speak and when to let silence stretch like silk between two people. He knows that not everything requires commentary. That sometimes the most seductive thing a man can offer is attention without agenda. That is the alchemy of presence. And it doesn't require perfect words, sculpted apps, or clever strategies. It requires embodiment, groundedness, a connection to one's own center so steady that it becomes a mirror for others to find theirs. Women are drawn not just to who his, but to who they become in his presence. And that's not just attractive, that's transformative. There's an undeniable shift when a man speaks from emotional intelligence rather than ego. It's like stepping into a room with better air. Everything feels clearer, more breathable, more alive. Women Go crazy for a man who can read the emotional temperature without needing a weather report. Who notices what's left unsaid. Who hears not only the words but the pauses, the tension behind the smile, the meaning behind the silence. It's a rare kind of attunement, and it doesn't come from books. It comes playful wisdom and presence from inner work. A man with emotional intelligence has learned to sit with discomfort rather than deflect it. He doesn't fear vulnerability because he's discovered that there is strength in naming the truth. He can hold space for a woman's chaos without making it about him. When she spirals, he doesn't shame her or shut her down. He leans in not to control her but to understand her. That moment, that deep breath, that presence, that capacity to say, I'm here. I get it. Keep going. It's disarming in the most beautiful way. And no, it doesn't mean he has all the answers. In fact, emotional intelligence often shows up as not having the answer and being okay with that. It's the humility to say, I don't know what to say right now, but I am with you. Women don't need you to fix them. They need to feel felt, to be mirrored, to be witnessed in their full emotional range without judgment or impatience. That kind of man becomes unforgettable because he becomes a sanctuary, not a battlefield. He doesn't make her emotions inconvenient. He makes them safe. And when a woman feels emotionally safe, everything opens. Her body opens, her trust deepens. Her passion flows more freely. Why? Because she's not performing. She's not managing your discomfort while trying to express her truth. She can simply be. And that is liberation. So many men fear emotional depth because they've been taught that feelings are dangerous, feminine, or weak. But the opposite is true. A man who knows his emotions, who has met his anger without projecting it, who has cried without apologizing, who has set boundaries without rage, is a man in full possession of his power. He doesn't erupt, he responds. He doesn't implode, he integrates. And that kind of man doesn't just attract women. He earns their reverence. When a woman meets Ian like this, she's meeting something ancient and rare. A protector not of fierity, but of her essence. A man who makes her feel emotionally held not because he dominates, but because he understands. And when she feels understood, she doesn't just fall for him. She trusts him with her softness, her wildness, her truth. And that is where true intimacy begins. There's a seductive power in a man who knows where he ends and where the world begins. A man with boundaries doesn't just protect his for detachment from outcome time. He protects his energy, his values, his peace. And contrary to popular belief, this isn't cold or stunt. It's deeply magnetic. Because boundaries don't push people away. They create the conditions where real connection can thrive. When Amon sets clear grounded limits, he tells the world and every woman he encounters, I know who I am and I won't abandon myself to be liked. And that is electric. Women are deeply drawn to men who respect themselves. Not in the inflated performative sense, but in the quiet, unshakable way that shows up in daily choices. The man who doesn't reply instantly to every message because he simmers in something meaningful. The man who doesn't tolerate disrespect even from someone he desires. The man who can't say no without anger and yes without neediness. He's not playing hard to get. He is hard to get, not because he's withholding but because he's selective. And that selectiveness isn't about ego. It's about integrity. When a woman meets a man like this, she can feel it. She can feel that his attention isn't scattered. That his focus is intentional. That his life has shape and direction. He's not looking to be completed. He's already whole. And that wholeness is what allows her to exhale because she's not being asked to save him, fix him, or constantly affirm him. She's being invited to meet him. There's something deeply arousing about a man who can hold his line, not out of control, but out of care for himself and for the container he's building. He doesn't disappear into the person he's dating. He doesn't morph to fit her expectations. He remains himself, rooted, awake, grounded, and that groundedness becomes a kind of erotic anchor. It allows her to explore her fullness without fearing he'll get lost in it. A man with boundaries doesn't chase chaos. He doesn't confuse drama with passion. He knows that real intimacy is created in clarity, not confusion. And he offers that clarity gently but firmly. He'll give his time but not his dignity. He listens deeply, but won't betray his truth. He's generous but never at the expense of his self-respect. That's what makes him unforgettable. Not because he overwhelms her but because he knows his edges.